Star Wars Andor has shown Mon Mothma from a new perspective, a statement even the actor agrees with.
Now that we've filmed it, I know her a little bit differently now.
However, this transformation is more than just a slight change of character. It actually reveals what the whole series is really about. And once you understand her role, you might see Andor and even the rebellion in a whole new way. But to set the stage of how someone who barely spoke in 1983's Return of the Jedi suddenly has become way different and therefore way more important, we have to go back to where it all started.
Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
This scene, acted by Carolyn Blackinston, was for a long time the most memorable moment of the character. Today this senator has appeared in the originals, the prequels, Clone Wars, Rogue One, Star Wars Rebels, Tales of the Jedi, a lot of different books, and most importantly, Andor. Oh, I have already forgotten, she was part of Ahsoka too. But despite all of these different stories, she never really left a mark on the TV/film side of things. That was until Andor.
Senator, what a pleasure to see you.
As a result of Star Wars being such a big cinematic universe, there have always been characters who appear across multiple stories but never get much attention. As I mentioned, Mon Mothma was definitely one of these characters. I'd put Bail Organa in the same category, and even Lando Calrissian to some extent. They were just there, delivering a few lines of dialogue and then fade into the background. But if you start telling their stories the right way, it could be a goldmine of an opportunity, and we're about to get into that. Before Andor, you viewed Mon as a pure leader, a typical good guy and someone important for the rebellion. Yet this series shows, like it's done with almost all its characters, that the path to freedom and life in general is so much more complicated than that. Throwing the basic assumption that Star Wars is only about lightsabers and good versus evil out the window. Even in the first scene she appeared in, I realized something. That we were in for another type of story with this character.
If you can't deliver, I need to know.
Do you think I'm not trying?
This was a person that wasn't confident, wasn't happy or calm. Key characteristics I would have normally described her with. And then we met her family, a situation that was everything but peaceful. Sure, it might have been presented in a slow fashion, however, it's more important than what you might realize, and let me explain why.
If you make me pay attention, I will, and you won't be happy. Don't do this again.
The key is, and it's worth noting that I'm only discussing film, animation and TV in this video, that Mon Mothma has always been portrayed in this almost untouchable way. Big speeches, lavish political dinners, leading an entire rebellion like it's just another Tuesday. And let's be honest, how many of us can actually relate to that? If you can, please let me know in the comments, I'm genuinely curious. But an awkward family dinner, an eye roll from your teenager,
he lets me do anything I want.
even a family fight, well, that's a bit more grounded, a bit more relatable. Essentially, what this point of view is showing us is that Mon Mothma isn't just trapped politically, she's trapped personally too. Everywhere she turns, someone resents her for trying to do the right thing.
You can't be serious. These people hate me. They spend every day trying to undo anything I've touched.
The fact that we as the audience understand that she is a person trying to survive, just like everyone else, only with the entire galaxy watching, makes it all the more tragic. Her life becomes a reflection of the personal cost of living under the Empire, and as the show unfolds, that truth only becomes more undeniable. We realized that in a world of luxury and safety, she couldn't be more alone, and it creates this powerful, unique contrast we don't get anywhere else in the series. Her elegant surroundings versus the absolute chaos in her mind. She's drowning, silently, behind a smile.
It's a lie. It's a projection. It's a front. It's smile.
But describing her as alone isn't entirely accurate. She had a few friends left, and this is where Luthen Rael joins the picture. In fact, calling him a friend might be a bit too much. Actually, let me paint a perspective that perhaps will make you view this so-called collaboration differently. Because even if this mysterious architect of the early rebellion is brutally honest, I'd argue he exploits the desperate situation Mon Mothma finds herself in. Luthen sees her good heart, he sees her passion for justice, and he channels that into action, but not without cost. Little by little, he guides her, pushing her from one decision to the next until she has no choice left but revolution. And that right there, that sense of being pushed to the edge, is one of the core themes of Andor, and you could argue Season 2 explores it even more. This personal journey of realization that there is no going back, only forward, only rebellion. But before we jump into the second season, let me finish talking about the first one. I keep coming back to that line from Wel Sarta in the Aldhani arc.
Everyone has their own rebellion.
And while Mon Mothma's rebellion is different compared to, for example, Cassian's, it's just as heartbreaking to experience. It's definitely a different fight, and like I mentioned, very different from how you once perceived her. Basically, going from the woman you only thought embodied faith for the rebellion to someone getting her hands dirty in secret, funding a cause that's killing a lot of people, lying to her husband, and pretty much using her own daughter as a political pawn. As a result of Mon Mothma obviously knowing this is morally wrong, it acts as a kind of psychological torture. And stick with me and you will see how this all connects. Because the more we observe her suffer through it, the more we watch her emotions slowly being stripped away, the more we begin to understand Luthen's world, and through it the world of the rebellion. The way of thinking, the brutal mindset, perfectly put into words in Luthen's now iconic speech to Lani in episode 10.
I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts.
The more time passes, the better this dialogue becomes, like it's forming into reality for every character we've been following. When Season 2 rolls around, there is no longer an escape, no ego, and as Luthen puts it, no time for gratitude.
Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude.
Mon Mothma knows that now. Everything on the surface, her calm, her control, it's all a facade. And the few times she dares to break it, the sad truth hits harder than ever before.
You do not have to go through with this.
I wish you were drunk.
This was the scene where I knew we were watching an all-time classic performance from Genevieve O'Reilly.
Wait. You're to stand behind me.
The way she shuts down her emotions, almost like a machine, is just brutally painful to watch. Even with the symbolism laid out clearly, her daughter following in her footsteps, it's undeniably haunting, because we all understand that no one truly wants this outcome. Well, maybe Perrin does.
Joy! Joy!
But the rest of them, they're stuck, trapped by their own choices, by the expectations around them, by their clashing beliefs, but most of all, trapped by the societal structure of the Empire. And this cornered feeling becomes all too real when we also understand that our true, good-hearted senator at the same event is involved in a murder plot against one of her childhood friends.
We'd be vulnerable forever. You need to be protected.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Wow, I never thought I'd say something like that about Mon Mothma, yet somehow it works, and it's definitely because of this guy.
I mean, this wedding is a prison, and she's gonna try to escape on the dance floor.
The writer and showrunner Tony Gilroy makes this evil decision feel so painfully human. The dancing is obviously not joy, rather it's an attempt to disappear, but more than that, it marks the beginning of her stepping into Luthen's shoes, starting to trade away pieces of her soul for the cause. She drinks and dances not to celebrate, but to forget. To forget what she has already been part of, and also to block out the weight of what she knows she'll have to do next. But if you want to take anything with you from this video, it's what I'm about to say now. Because Andor has had this very complicated impact on me, and I'm curious if anyone else feels the same. On one hand, it's flipped Star Wars on its head, turning it into something deeply realistic. But on the other hand, it's changed how I see the rebellion. It's no longer a united noble force, but rather a group of broken people doing questionable things out of desperation. And through it all, especially Mon Mothma, I've come to realize this: that the more this rebellion grows, the more broken it becomes. Let me clarify what I mean. Yes, the rebellion is from one perspective an uplifting movement, fighting for a good cause through faith and aspirations. However, it's not like many of the people are happy or satisfied. But that's also what the show is trying to tell its audience, that despite how hard it might be to fight against the Empire, people still choose it over living an everyday life under an oppressive regime. And it's often those who, because of the Empire, have nothing left to lose, and therefore are the most mentally beaten, like Luthen and Clea or Cassian and Jyn in Rogue One, who become the most crucial for the revolution. They're the ones pushing this powerful machine forward, because there is literally no other choice for them.
How many of us make it out? All of that is now up to us.
At the same time, I'm not saying that everything is sad in this show. Quite the opposite. Andor captures human connection, loyalty and love more authentically than anything else in Star Wars right now. Especially from the perspective of culture and the love for the community you live in. Just look at Ferrex or the Gorman people. It's a beautiful human story, but the love we see on screen is often tangled up in other emotions and complicated circumstances. It can feel distant, even painful, and yet, in the rare moments when it takes center stage, it's also very much alive. But the sad truth is that we more often than not get reminded that these relationships are built on fragile ground, and many of them crumble under the weight of the cause. Some of them gets taken away for reasons that should not happen.
Don't you look away from me.
I'm sorry.
She was a warrior. She was everything that you have daydreamed about.
Others change because they have to.
It's over. And we've won. We can do all the things we ever wanted.
And some were not meant to be.
You're dismissed. Immediately.
And in the end, time and time again, it leaves these people alone in a rebellion that is supposed to be all about togetherness, which once again brings me back to Luthen. If you look at him at the start of the series, the first conversation he has that isn't with a droid, he says a total of 5 words in what's approximately 3 minutes. There is no charm, no feelings at all really. It's someone that's already dead inside. And in retrospect, it's literally the answer of the entire series put straight in our face, showcasing the sacrifice needed and what it actually does to you. And there are those like Cassian, Jin, Brasso, K2, Sagarera, Nemik, Marva, Cinta, and many more that paid the literal price of death, that would never happen to see the final outcome of their work. Yet Andor tragically shows that many of those that survived, like Mon Mothma, won't have much of her soul left anyway, and it's literally exactly like Luthen describes it. You burned your life away for someone else's future, and I think Mon Mothma lit the biggest flame of them all. Which brings us full circle, and makes you look at this scene from Return of the Jedi in a whole new light. Suddenly observing a broken woman who has gone through all kinds of terrible things. Someone that completed the journey to the other side, but also someone that's scarred for life.
I'm not sure how to thank you.
Make it worth it.
Here you can watch another video about a Star Wars Andor character, more specifically the unsung hero, Karis, Nemik. Thank you for watching, and I wish you a great day.